We need to challenge our beliefs about health. It requires embracing a modernized understanding of health, including physical, mental, social and spiritual health, and the full range of factors that influence these elements of a holistic approach. It requires viewing health as an investment, not as an expense, and not something to be taken for granted. So today my guests are Joanna Bensz, founder and CEO of the Longevity Center, a network of the world's leading longevity clinics, that one of them is in Warsaw, and Eric Verdin, MD, President and CEO of the Bach Institute for Research on Aging, the world's first independent biomedical research institute focused solely on aging. My real pleasure. I think, especially the summertime is a good moment really to take a deep dive into the healthy lifestyle, about our habits, what we can really do, how to make that all happen. I really love the word longevity because I think it's a new concept probably to introduce, but I hope this word will make a career very, very quickly because it's positive. It doesn't differentiate people in terms of the age. But it also gives you this component that actually your life is also about making some strategic decisions. Yeah. I think that you can follow some things what life brings at certain age, but then when probably you will reach 40, 50, you will start to notice that maybe it's a lot of things you can do on your side. So this is exactly what I would like to talk to you today with, your scientific background in terms of what we can actually do and whether, this concept on longevity is really something we can embrace on our own. And then, of course, how we can help ourselves through therapies, through some services that, for example, longevity centers offer in Warsaw, but also in other places around Europe, to make it really live long and healthy life.
Perfect, very important.
Well, maybe Eric, so let's start with you. If you could just tell us briefly about what do you do in the Institute and what's your, approach to longevity?
So, thank you for having us. I think I'm delighted to be here and to meet your audience, to be here with Joanna. The Bach Institute was the first institute founded that was solely focused on understanding the biology of aging. And so something dramatic happened about 20 years ago from a research standpoint, where people started studying aging and realized that it's a molecular process like any other disease that you can actually study in the laboratory setting. And we've been busy for about 20 years trying to understand aging in animal models. So we study mice, we study little worms, we study all kinds of, and we can do amazing things in terms of increasing their lifespan and their health span, how many years they live healthy. And I became the head of the Bach Institute about 7 years ago now. And what really excited me is this idea that this technology is now ready for humans. And so what we've been working for the last 6 years is really trying to translate all of these discoveries into humans. And the good news is that all of this work is coming to humans in the future. And so I hope we get a chance to talk about what are we doing and how, what is it that we really are doing.
Yeah, I think the expectation is to get, the ready tips how to make it happen. So definitely we'll talk about it in a moment, but maybe just out of my curiosity, how did you meet Joanna and Eric?
Well, together with Prince Michael, we have been observing the longevity field for about 5 years. And at the very beginning of our journey, we have organized in Vaduz, Vaduz Roundtable, for some of the top experts in the field to better understand where the field is going, what is possible, and then what are the real benchmarks. And obviously, Bach Institute is the most important institute. So Eric kindly accepted our invitation. We met in Liechtenstein, among also many other leaders from the industry, but also it was regulators, doctors, scientists, and some people from the industries that support longevity. It was about 5 years ago.
Great, and I think it's an exciting journey to see how, the scientific knowledge can be actually implemented in life and really support people. So I understand, because you are also the part of the program council of the Longevity Center, as far as I know, yes?
Yes, and I should have actually mentioned it. This is even, I'm really very proud to have Eric as the head of our advisory board, because translating longevity into medicine. I mean, we are one of the first clinics in the world doing that. And it's really, really important for us to do it right. I mean, there's no faculty at the medical university teaching about this. There is, of course, geriatry, gerontology, but they're really focusing rather on maintenance of aging rather than how to actually keep people or slowing down the aging process. So, yes, so Eric kindly accepted to be also on the advisory board of the Longevity Center.
Yes, really sounds amazing, and I think the demand for such a services and support will be growing. We know, of course, the demographics trends, and I'm always emphasizing that, one thing that we can be sure on in these unpredictable times is the fact that we are not going to reverse these demographic trends.
Yeah.
At least in the time perspective we can imagine. So this is really important to change this mindset from, curing to, keep the healthy, balanced life, yes, because we are, quite successful in expanding life, but not the healthy life. So I was really, I went on the website of the Bach Institute, and what really I liked about your mission is that you believe that it's possible for people to enjoy life at 95 as much as at 25. And this is what I would like to ask you, how we can do it, knowing what the scientists, know already. How we can really make it happen?
Well, there are... most important thing to realize for you and your audience is the fact that when we look at the relative role of genetics, what you've inherited from your parents versus lifestyle factors, it turns out that lifestyle factors are about 93% of your longevity, which means you cannot blame your parents. It really should bring to everyone a sense of responsibility. The way you're going to age is going to be determined by how you live. And so what the science of aging tells us is aging starts around 25, 30. It's a lifelong process. We've also learned that aging can be changed. The rate at which you can age change. Some people age faster, and eventually those people will die and be sick earlier. And some people actually age very slowly, and those are the people that are going to be living to 100. Now, we've learned a lot about identifying levers or dials that allow us to change the rate of aging in people. And so many of these, frankly, today are lifestyle factors, and we can talk about it. Your audience probably knows about them. It's nutrition, it's physical activity or sport, it's social connection, it's sleep, stress, and all this. So all of these are extremely important. And if you want to live older, better today, these are the dials that you can change. There's also what's coming next, which is drugs and medicine that we have in animal models and which will be tested in humans in the future. So what I tell everyone is these drugs might bring us to the next stage, but to be able to have the drugs, you have to live long enough to be, so that they've been tested, they've been shown to be safe and so on. So I encourage everyone to really look at their longevity protocol in some way. Think about it as an investment in your future and the way you would manage an investment, for your finances. I think you should manage your health and think about each of these elements as buckets that you can deposit. And so, the first reaction quite often I get from people say, yeah, you're a longevity doctor. You're going to tell me that I should exercise more and eat less and sleep more and so on. It's a lot more complicated than this. And I think we are gaining a lot more knowledge in terms of giving practical information. Because, people typically, lifestyle factors will respond, say, well, there's nothing I can do. I don't like to exercise. I don't like to sweat. But a little example before I finish, walking 25 minutes a day, which is 12 minutes in the morning, 12 minutes at night, will decrease your risk of heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's by 40% every year that you do it.
That's quite simple investment to make.
A very simple investment. There are no medicines that do this. And I would say for the next 10 to 20 years, we will not have a medicine that does better. And so for me, sometimes when I tell this to people, they say, well, 25 minutes, 30 minutes a day? Yes, every day. That's the best anti-aging medicine that we have today. And I don't know in Poland, but in America, 80% of people do not do it. And so very simple interventions like this,
Yes, I
have a
think that,
profound
we have, the question is whether, we can read about all of those information, but do we have this real awareness, and also the fact that, to change habits, yes? Because at the end of the day, if you were always driving a car, for example, to work, yes, because we can assume that, for example, this 15, 20 minutes in the morning and then 20 minutes in the afternoon is maybe your walking distance to work, to school, to something, yes? Mm-hmm. And then how to make it really happen? Do you really think that people are, moving into this right directions, or what is actually the problem in creating those habits, which seems to be
I
not
think
really
we
a
don't
problem?
like to change. This is the biggest. This is the biggest challenge. We usually, it's always difficult to change any type of habits, but it was amazing for me when Eric said it, because at the moment we are following different supplements and different strategies there might be, or interventions, and they might increase your lifespan by 10%, 5%, or 20%, but like only simple exercising can actually increase it so much more. And I think this was something that also interested me very much, that and also challenge my thinking, because I very much believe in the fact that you have to really, even if we are waiting for this best medicine that will change the world, and we will have just one supplement and we don't have to exercise. But until then, I think it would be really, really good to keep in a pretty good shape so that we start from a certain level. But it's not always, we're also not talking about lifespan, because I think this is what you mentioned. We are really focusing on health span. And health span starts today, tomorrow. We want to feel good. And we want to feel it every single day. We don't want to only invest in the time that we are going to be 60 plus. Okay, now I'm going to have the dividend of living longer. But really, we are investing today in the simple steps to really feel great already next week or next month, and not to put on weight, and have enough energy to do what we like doing, to really conquer the world.
An interesting aspect. I love what Joanna just said, because I think the way I think about this field, it's about life optimization. You are given a beautiful body which works perfectly when you receive it, and in some way, the philosophy is that the better you treat it, the more it will serve you, and the longer, and not only with the idea of living longer. I think that's obviously all of us want to live longer in good health, but it's also your whole life will actually be better if you really are, practicing what we think will lead to this. So for me, it's I love the term longevity or performance. It's think about your body and treat it. If you are religious about changing the oil on your car every 5,000 kilometers, like many people are, why are you not doing the same thing about your body and treating it the best way to allow it to to function well the best way possible? So I think another aspect that's really important and interesting is this idea that many of us until recently lived our whole life assuming everything is going well until you're 60 or 65 and you have a heart attack. And you go from one day being considered by the medical world as someone who's healthy to someone who could die, who was actually gravely sick. So the whole field of longevity medicine really is developing markers that you can use at 30, at 40, at 50, because it's very different from you to me, to Joanna. We're all different creatures and with different markers. And I think a clinic like Joanna has established really is focused on evaluating at any stage in your life to try to determine where are you? Are you on a trajectory to stay healthy or do you need a correction? Think about when you bring your car again to the garage every, once a year to have...
And you have to do it once a year.
And you have to do it because they will run the electronics and determine, your tires are a little this, your oil it needs to be changed. The same goes for us. I think it's a really different way of thinking about your health. Health is a lifelong process, and we're learning how to recognize early signs of dysfunction and to intervene early. So that's really what we're all about.
But people are sometimes afraid to know Aren't they?
This is something that surprised me. Yes, there's a number of clients that are afraid to know because they know that they have to act. I'm not one of those people, but it keeps surprising me that people actually don't
Me
want to know.
too, but especially that still you have a huge space to do something about it, right?
Exactly, and it doesn't have to be super complicated to change because it doesn't mean that you have to have an operation next day. It really just means that you have to change the way you eat, and it doesn't have to be, again, super complicated. I think what Eric mentioned, we are going into personalization of everything. I mean, the more you know about yourself, the more detailed you can make some small changes. I mean, for example, we mentioned genetics. We also do different tests of biological aging. That also shows that because our organs are, and also different parts of our body are aging in different speeds, in different ways. So we can measure it today. So we are not looking for the sum, but we are really looking for the weakest link today so that we can address it. So it doesn't really it doesn't become a complicated problem later in life. Because a lot of those risk factors, like with slight obesity or obesity, I mean, if we don't do anything about that, or with stress and with diet, I mean, they start accumulating. And then once they accumulate, then at some stage, this is going to, there's going to be a reaction. And now when we are able to really monitor some of those changes, the same with the car. I mean, you don't wait until your car breaks down in the middle of the road. You actually start doing something.
No, here you have actually the regulations that you have to do it, at least in Poland, every year, you know. So that's what, you know, it's interesting that you do have regulations for the car, but you don't have such a regulations for people. And, you know, when we look at the system as a whole, from the societal point of view or health system, healthcare system, let's be honest that no system in the world will be able to support a lot of people that will reach 65 and they will need a huge care support, or cure support. It's just, you know, it's impossible.
That's in some way, I mean, I really love this point because there's an economic, from a government point of view, from a regulatory point of view, we are living longer, but we're living sicker also. That's a true.
I have a Polish statistic recently. That's, you know.
And so, you know, when we talk about health span versus lifespan, we talk about longevity, but we mostly speak about healthy longevity. It's not living old. You know, the first time I gave a talk to a lay audience, I asked, who wants to live to 150? And I was expecting everybody would raise their hand, and no one did. And then I realized, you know, who wants to live 150 in good health, surrounded by your children, by your family, and so on. Everybody, of course, wants to live that way. So we associate aging with disease in a reasonable way, because this is what we're seeing all around us.
True.
But it doesn't have to be this way. There are people who age well into their 90s and healthy, and actually more and more. And if you look in some specific communities that we study, for example, in California, we have a lot of adults who live in their late 80s in excellent health. And so that's the model for me. When you said, you know, 95, I think most of us today, if you were to optimize everything that you can optimize based on what we know, you can expect to live to 90, 95 in good health, which is very different from what we see. Most people today, by the time they reach 65, already have one disease, and they have two diseases by the time they're 70. So that's today aging. So of course people say, I don't want to live old. But it doesn't have to be this way.
Yes, and of course, if we add on top of this also the statistics on Alzheimer, Parkinson, and all those neurological diseases, that's also, unfortunately, we observe the huge increase, yes. But I think it's also about the quality of life and being independent. And what we observe is that also people don't want to depend on others. So I think that's additional motivation for people to actually take care of themselves, that even if they will reach a certain age, they can still get along, you know, with their friends, not necessarily, you know.
And do what they love.
Exactly.
But I think there's another aspect, Sylwia, that I think we didn't discuss, that because we say it as an obligation. And I think this is something that is also considered that we have to do that. But like, we should really look at health also as something positive and something that we can enjoy as well doing. Because there's a lot of people watching their, you know, sleep, stress, exercise, and they like doing that. So we should really look at health, how we can enjoy taking care of ourselves, because this could be actually a fun journey as well. I mean, of course, when we see results, you know, I don't know, we are losing weight. If we had problems with weight, we look good. We are cognitively very strong. We have a great memory, and this is what we want to stay as long as possible. But like, I think we have to change the trajectory a bit, not to look at health as a must that we need to do because we are aging and there's going to be a lot of people over 65, but like, let's look at health as fun and fun process.
It's a way of life, which is really brings, frankly, brings a lot of rewards. And this is what people, you know, have to realize. It's not a burden. It becomes a pleasure because you realize, you know, I'm 66. I function at the same level as I did when I was 20, almost. Maybe I have a little less strength, but I have not seen any decrease. But at the same time, I see some of my friends and colleagues who have not taken care of themselves, and I'm thinking, wow, what a difference, you know, it makes to actually that investment. And so there's a true joy that comes out of this. It's not that I'm obsessed with my health. I just decided this is something I'm going to spend, you know, I want to live as long as I can in good health. So I think I really like what Joanna says about this idea. People think, oh, don't want to be healthy because I like to do this and to do this. Well, you can enjoy life incredibly well. Actually, frankly, you enjoy it more when you are healthy than when you are not healthy. And it doesn't mean that you have to be living like a monk and not drinking alcohol and not
eat only salad
and only eat salad. This is not at all what it is. So this is what I think from my vision of the field is we have to really change the discourse, the way people think about health. Health is not something painful. It's actually something incredibly joyful.
Yes, and I think it's important to understand that it's a process and it's a journey, because actually when you said about the reward, I think that, you know, sometimes we just have this expectation that we would like to see the effects very quickly. So for example, if you want to please yourself and you will go to the store and buy some nice dress, even if it's an expensive dress, I can imagine it can cost as much as the examination at the longevity center. You know, you have this dress and, you know, you have this effect probably for 15 minutes or maybe for one party, but it's right away, yes? And then when you start to do something for your health, maybe you don't see the results right away, but you see them long term, and that's a little bit...
That's the hard thing, is you have to... But I would there's one aspect that I think it should be emphasized, is that if you adopt a healthy lifestyle, you will feel the benefits quickly. Quickly.
Okay.
And this is what most people don't realize, you know, and then the more you start feeling them, the more you realize, well, I can do even more. And the more you do, the better you feel. That's so I'm surprised by sometimes the barrier that people place for themselves in terms of cutting down on your alcohol drinking. So I don't think you should stop drinking completely, but there's really clear evidence that too much alcohol is not good for your brain. It increases your risk of cancer and disrupts your sleep. And I'm amazed sometimes when I tell people, well, if you consider, you know, drinking a little less, they say, no, I've done this my whole life. I said, well, why don't you try it for a week? And they come back and they tell me, I can't believe it. I'm sleeping like a baby. I did not know it was doing this. So immediately you stop drinking for one night, that night you will sleep better, I can guarantee you. So sometimes small changes can have a profound effect very quickly. And for me, the whole key is when I see a patient or someone is to really get them to take the first step, because then I can really point to them. Then we can point the numbers. Look at this marker and this marker. Everything is going in the right direction. We have a marker right now, and it's called time of death. I can draw your blood. I can predict plus or minus 2 years. If you continue living the way you live today, when will you die?
Wow.
We have a marker today that will do this. Now imagine that, you know...
We don't test it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, some of these markers are, you know, we also call them biological age. So basically you have your chronological age, how many years you've lived, but you also have your biological age. If your biological age is younger than what your chronological age is, you can expect to live longer than the average people. If it's older, that's bad news.
Or you have to do something about it.
You have to do something. And these markers now change. So we can see them changing as a function of interventions, which means that you are, that becomes itself a sort of reinforcement. I'm doing the right thing, or I'm not doing the right thing.
Well, so it's fascinating to know actually that we don't need to wait long for the results. So I know that people nowadays love challenges, and we have this 15-day challenge for the lose your belly, 20-day challenge to lose your weight. So if we had this type of 28-day challenge for the longevity plan to implement it to see results, what would you advise to do within this 28 days to see the results?
I would first recommend that people start walking every morning and every night. That would be the step one. It is really the most profound thing you can have in terms of your health is right now physical activity. If you don't like walking, you can bicycle, but doing something about 30 minutes a day, that's physical. And it doesn't mean sweating. It just means, some people actually do heavy gardening. So number one. Number two, I would say most of us are not sleeping enough. So increasing your sleep. Most adults need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. If you're sleeping less, you're probably undersleeping. And most people will tell you, well, no, I can get by 5 hours. There is about 1% of the population that can get by with less than 7 to 8 hours. All of us, you need to sleep more. Think about alcohol on a daily basis because it is a sleep disruptor. It's a lot of calories. So it doesn't mean you cannot have one glass, but try to limit it for one glass. And that's what I would do if I would do this 30-day challenge. So we have physical activity. In terms of nutrition, I think most of us, I'm not a great fan of all the different fad diets, this diet versus this diet, paleo versus keto versus this, versus vegan versus vegetarian. There's not much evidence that suggests that any of these diets are actually better than the others. I think you need a balanced nutrition. But there's growing evidence that you should have fasting every day. Fasting meaning no food. And most of us fast for a short period of time, which is about 8 hours. When we go to sleep, let's say at 11 and get up at 7, that's your fasting period. It turns out that increasing that fasting period by 2, 3, 4, 5 hours really shows very profound effect in terms of your metabolism. So I tell people, if you're fasting only from 11 to 7, try fasting from 8 p.m. when we finish with dinner, make a commitment that you don't have any calories after dinner until the next morning at 7. That'd already be better. And then if you can continue increasing that fasting window, you will also see benefits. Finally, one of the strongest predictor of lifespan and life expectancy is social connection. So I tell people, nurture your friendship, your relationship with the people who are close to you. And it's really an important way to give time to community, so have a sense of purpose in your life. These are all things that are really hard to study scientifically, but the data is there that people who have a strong sense of purpose, why they are on Earth, who are they serving, who are they, here for, tend to live longer. So this would be my 1 month hack.
Well, really interesting, and I think at the end of the day not really difficult to implement, so let's encourage everyone to try. But I believe that there are some people who anyway need some daily assistant to do it. I mean, we can read about it, we can listen to this, we can even agree that for sure that will work, but then somehow we are not really ready for it. And I think that, such institutes like Longevity Center that offers also additional therapy services with light, with oxygen, can also help, especially to the people that really have this speedy way of living, especially, on the high business agenda. And so what can they actually find in Longevity?
I think this
can help them.
You actually inspired me now, and we will be doing. I think we will do this challenge right away. But I will start with everything that Eric said because this is something you can do at home, and it's easy. But I will start with some blood tests so that we actually can see what we could still change in your diet, in terms of not even diet. I agree with you. We are not into diet, we are into nutrition, to really understand what kind of nutrients you need in your daily choices on food. And then what should we supplement? So this is one thing we will definitely do.
Yeah, because I think in Poland especially we overwhelm the supplements without any knowledge really. We just somebody says that, you know, magnesium, somebody says some other vitamins, but actually you have no clue what is actually good for you, right?
And this is something that, I don't know, we talk a lot about that, because people actually are taking supplements because they read this one is really great, so I have to take it. But we actually don't know whether it's great for us. I mean, the fact that it helps somebody else, our friend, it doesn't mean that she has the same constitution, the same predisposition, the same genetic makeup. So we really need to understand our, let's say, starting point. And again, this doesn't have to be very, very complicated. Start with at least blood analysis. Of course, at the Longevity Center, we do a much wider blood analysis than anywhere else. But even the basic, it's already giving us certain indications whether we are not overdoing certain supplements. Then definitely diet. We can do much more in terms of stress management. I mean, you can start with, we can start with breathing exercises, with meditation, but there's a lot you could do with technology as well. This is again what we could help. At the Longevity Center, we are also giving additional services like hyperbaric chamber, cryo chamber, red light. I mean, these are additional things that motivates you and maybe help you to have a faster progress in some of those hacks that Eric already mentioned. But a lot you can do actually with starting your new routine for sleeping, for food, not overeating. Very innovative, but one of the basic things. I mean, in Poland especially, we go for big dinners. But most of the gatherings actually we eat a lot. I think one thing we talk about blue zones at some stage in your newspaper, and
yes,
I thought it was also very, very easy thing to say. I mean, eat. Don't eat until you're really full and can't eat anymore. But like most of the centenarians are filling the stomach at 80%, and then leave some space also to actually know whether you really need more. So this is one thing, not overeating. Fasting, intermittent fasting. So there's 8 to 16 hours, also very easy to introduce. And sleep, I mean, this is the best the best drug for regeneration that we have. I mean, we were discussing...
And it's for free.
It's free. And also what Eric mentioned, if you don't sleep enough, I mean, next day you really have more cravings. You really feel more tired. You have to have more coffee. Then if you have more coffee, you want to eat something sweet with the coffee. And then it's actually...
you are not effective at work, so you stay longer to finish everything.
Exactly, and then you don't sleep again. So I think it's certain routine that you want to introduce, and of course it needs organization. But again, it doesn't have to be super complicated. If you do a challenge, then do a challenge for 20 days and see how you feel after that.
Yes, so I would say that the conclusion is just to give a try. And then probably nobody will have to convince anyone anymore because that will just work. Well, thank you very much. I mean, it was very inspiring discussion. Even for me, I feel much as a person who is aware of a lot of things, but anyway, a few discoveries for myself. So thank you very much. And really, I hope that people will take these tips and take the challenge. But of course, if they feel that they need extra support, especially they maybe like some technologies that will help them to follow what they are doing, how they are performing, then definitely Longevity Center is the place to go.
Thank you. And we are also helping, we are also writing this some tips from time to time, and please follow also Poland Weekly.
Exactly.
There's always some longevity tips there.
Yeah, I think that the quality of life is also one of those factors that makes people move to one place or the other. So let's hope that, you know, this will be also something associated with Warsaw and Poland as a good place to live.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.